Hi, this is our presentation on COVID-19 and depression and anxiety diagnoses. Our research question was, does there exist a relationship between the time period of COVID-19 and a change in mental health diagnoses, such as depression and anxiety? Specifically, does the time period of COVID-19 have an effect on the levels of depression and anxiety of different regions of the United States and also different age ranges throughout the COVID-19 time period? This is our background and prior work. We have our CDC 2020 datasets and Panchal et al. 2021. The CDC 2020 datasets involve the indicators of anxiety or depression based on reported frequency of symptoms. And the Panchal et al. 2021 involved the implications of COVID-19 for mental health and substance use. And there's a quote from Panchal et al. 2021 that says,
Can we restart this?
yeah.
We did it wrong.
Yeah, because I had the notes, right?
CDC 2020 datasets and DPQJ. Panchal is like a reference to our background, I think.
Oh, it's just the background.
Have to redo the slide. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, for sure. So I'll just go over the indicators of depression based on reported.
The two datasets are indicators of anxiety and depression based on the reported frequency of symptoms and DPQJ. These are the two datasets.
Cool.
Pretty sure. All right. Yeah, Panchal is a reference of our background, I think.
Oh, that makes sense. That's like the background.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right, so I'll start over, resume share. Okay. Hello, this is our presentation on COVID-19 and depression and anxiety diagnoses. Our research question is, does there exist a relationship between the time period of COVID-19 and a change in mental health diagnoses such as depression and anxiety? Specifically, does there exist a time period, or does the time period of COVID-19 have an effect on the levels of depression and anxiety of different regions of the United States and different age ranges throughout the COVID-19 time period? So we have our background in prior work. We have two data sets, both from the CDC. They are the indicators of anxiety or depression based on the reported frequency of symptoms, and the DPQJ. They have a reasonable number of observations. The indicators of anxiety or depression symptoms have 6,057, and the DPQJ have 5,533. And the Panchal et al. Research is part of our background, and it is titled The Implications of COVID-19 for Mental Health and Substance Use. And although it does involve substance use, it also involves depression and anxiety in the article. So we thought that it would be good for our research. And there's a reasonable quote from it that says that during the pandemic, a larger than average share of young adults ages 18 to 24 report symptoms of anxiety and or depressive disorder, up to 56%. Okay. That was that.
All right. When COVID-19 pandemic hit the US in 2020, many people were greatly affected by it. Besides physical health challenges, this pandemic also poses serious mental challenges to people. These challenges may include a greater risk of being diagnosed with mental illness. Anxiety, depression, and even greater suicide risk may be heightened by COVID-19 conditions, which are marked by the quarantine in March of 2020. We are interested in the relationship between COVID-19 and mental health, and we did our research on this topic by focusing only on depression and anxiety. We did this to make our study more concise and focused, which would strengthen our chances of rejecting the null hypothesis. Okay, I'm going to read the ethics and privacy statement of our research. Next slide. The topics of mental health is a sensitive and private area. There are many potential ethical infringements when working with such data. In order to protect our subjects in the study, all names should be removed, as well as any features that would be traceable to identify a subject. In dataset 2, all respondents are only referred to by their response ID, which does not reveal their personal information. All of the data are from government resources, and they are made publicly for research. Thus, we believe that there are no ethical concerns with our data. All right, we want to first investigate the change in the proportion of depressed people in the US before and during COVID-19. From the DPQJ dataset, we see that there's in a survey in 2018, 9.1% people were classified as with depression. In the biweekly update on mental health status in 2020 to 2021 from CDC, we see that the depression level has an average of over 20%. The lower bound of the distribution denoted by the gray area is about 15%. This is strong evidence that during COVID-19 pandemic, more people are depressed.
So throughout our EDA, we plotted the symptoms of depression by age range and the symptoms of anxiety by age range. And in the example here, we have the symptoms of depression or anxiety by age range. And then later on, we'll see the regions of the United States. It's very interesting to see that the least affected age range was 80 years and above. And the highest levels of anxiety or depression were people of 18 to 29 years old. So this kind of came as a surprise personally, because COVID-19 mostly affected people of older ages. However, the social limitations placed by the pandemic were probably a larger cause for depression symptoms in younger age people. Next slide, please. And so now if we look at anxiety and depression levels by region of the United States, we see that the highest region of anxiety and depression levels was the Southwest, and the lowest levels were the Midwest. So looking at these plots is kind of what led us to start running our t-tests and start getting more involved with the data to see if there was potential for any correlation.
All right, so we conducted 6 t-tests on the data from CDC. All of them are using the null hypothesis that the 2 variables are the same. In the 6th t-test, we reject the null hypothesis for each one of them and conclude that depression, anxiety, and depression or anxiety differs by region and by age. This is also supported by our data visualization, which shows that Southwest region has higher depression level than other regions in the US, and the younger people have higher depression levels than other age groups.
All right, so let's go back specifically our extra question that looks for levels of depression and anxiety through different regions and different age ranges. Throughout our EDA, we saw that there was an increase in depression levels during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we saw that the highest affected communities were the Southwest region and people of 18 to 29 years old. Because of our data sets, it's hard to pin these communities being affected directly by COVID-19, as we did have limitations. For example, the data we used to evaluate depression levels in 2018 before the pandemic did not include age and regional differences. We were able to see an overall increase in levels, but we couldn't break it down by these subsets. Younger age people, as well as people in the Southwest region, could potentially have higher rates of depression and anxiety in general, and it may not be directly correlated with the pandemic. This would be an interesting statistic to evaluate in the future with different data sets. However, projects like these are very important. In a world where everyone is quarantined, mental health is very important. So understanding and evaluating trends like these are important for the health and well-being of humans.
You're going to want to repeat the last 2 sentences because they cut out a little bit.
Okay, sorry.
No,
So,
it's fine.
however, this is not to discredit the importance of projects like these ones. In a world where everyone must quarantine and isolate themselves from one another, promoting mental health is very important. Understanding and evaluating trends like these are important for the health and well-being of humans. In the future, if another pandemic like this breaks out, being able to identify these changes is critical in our understanding of how we can prevent mental health issues in global emergencies such as these ones. Thank you.
All right, that looks good.